We are going to add to a rig a setup for the knee to be able to lock in moments when you need, let's say, the character kneeling down and the knee to be fixed to the floor, or maybe the character needs to be hanging from its knees upside down and you need the knee to be locked to that position. So for doing that, there are a couple of things that we want to do based on the type of rig that we have. So let me get to it. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna create on the foot controller. We're gonna add an attribute, and this attribute we're gonna call it um, left knee lock. We're gonna make this one a boolean. That way it's going to be on or off. I'm gonna say okay, so that knee lock appears right there as an attribute. We will need to create a set driven key. I'm sorry, a pole vector to the knee so that we can control the pole vector. We already know we have a knee twist, and the knee twist is being controlled by a pole vector that is hidden to the side. If you remember, we did that before. Because of that reason, we need to create a second controller, a second constraint to the pole that's going to do a second pole vector on the same object. So let me just go and split my screen here in two. Look at the right view here, hide this, and I have right there selected by just pure chance my foot lock, and I have my foot control, and that one has underneath the ankle IK handle, which is the one that is receiving the constraint. You see the constraint, the pole vector right there. So we're gonna create a second pole vector, and we're gonna do that by just simply adding a locator, and I'm going to just snap that to the knee joint. Let me just make sure I'm doing it to the knee joint. There we go, it is on the left knee joint, and I'm going to just move it forward a little bit. Modify freeze transformation, although I think that's not going to. Let me just make sure that I have all settings correct here. Translate, rotate, transform. Okay, good. So it goes all to 0 here, and we are going to now create a pole vector 2 that I can handle. So I'm going to select the controller, the locator right there. I'm going to select the left key handle object, and under my rigging menu set, I'm going to create a second pole vector. And actually that what it does, it doesn't create a second constraint node, it just simply adds another one right here. But before we do that, let me just undo that. I'm gonna undo it, and I'm gonna give a name to this locator, so it's not just simply locator 2. I'm gonna call it left knee p vector 02. That way I know that one it's going to be easier for me to recognize. Now let's just do it. I'm going to select the object. I'm going to select the I can handle. I'm going to create the pole vector. And the rest, you see knee controller 01 and knee controller p vector 02. Those are the two pole vectors that are active right now. So we're going to be switching between those two in order to control our object. Now, we need to create here an object that is going to be easier to select better than this, because this object is a little bit too little, too difficult to select, and it'll be easier for us to model or do something. So we're going to use a poly model of an existing let's see where I can get here. Oh, I clicked on one already. Let me just change that. I'm going to delete that. All right, let me try one more time. I'm gonna click on it here, see if it did it. Okay, just give me the option right there. I'm gonna change it from a octahedron. Let's see which one is the one that I'm looking for. A simple one. Let me just frame it here. Tetrahedron, that's the one. Let me get rid of that other one that I had there by accident. This one is one a bit easier for it to work with. And I'm going to make on that one a just a curve. So I'm gonna create with my curve tools a 1 degree curve, and I'm gonna just use my snapping. Let's go forward here so I can see it. When I'm holding V to snap to the point, so I'm building my object based on what I'm looking at. There we go. I think I got it. I'm going to just delete that original object. I have my curve here. This one I'm going to just call it left underscore knee lock control, right? So that way I can use that one to, I'm going to snap it to the object right there, and I just scale it up a little bit so it's easier for me to see it. Move it forward so it's not just on it right there. I'm just gonna be like just change the pivot point of it. So I'm gonna just press V and snap a pivot point to the center of that locator. Actually I forgot to modify transformer formation on it. That way I have it right there, and I'm gonna make that controller a child, that locator a child of a controller. So I'm gonna press P so that the locator is a child of that one, and I'm going to group that object to itself. Control G to group it and modify center pivot point, and I'm going to call that one the same, only that the concept, the word, the group at the end. So I just call that underscore GRP for group. Okay, so I got that, and of course the one that I'm going to be using is the curve, not the other one. And I'm going to make this one just for organization purposes. I want to make that one a child of the main controller, so that I have it, already in its place. Okay, so this object is already providing a pole vector to the knee, but it is not working just yet because, as we said, that knee is receiving two pole vectors. If I try to move this object in front of it, the knee wouldn't respond. So that's one thing. And the second thing, we need to make this object be driving the position of that joint, which is another challenge that we have. So let's try starting by making sure that this guy can become a pole vector, so we can flip between the current twist knee to be able to use this one as an option for me to move the knee back to locator, to lock it. So for that, we are going to use a set-driven key to first drive the pole vector. So let me call my set-driven key on their animation key, set-driven key set. I'm gonna open it up, and what we're gonna say here is that the object that is going to drive that is the switch that we created for the knee lock. So I'm gonna load that driver right there. There is my knee lock, and we are going to drive the key handle, which has the two, actually not the key handle, the constraint, which has the two W0 and W1 constraints connected to it, which are the pole vector constraints. I'm going to load that one as the driven. That means that these guys are going to be the ones that are going to be driven. So let's start by clicking on this Y, making sure that the knee is locked off. That means when the knee lock is off, that means it's not going to be active. That means we want the twist knee to work. So we're gonna keep the knee off for now. I'm gonna go to these two guys, and I'm going to say the left knee control is going to be 1. That means that the first pole vector, the one that is working to the side, is 1, and the second one, the knee p vector 02, is going to be 0. Right? So that way 1 is working over the other one, and making sure that everything is selected here, and just key. Right? So that puts a keyframe on both of them, I go on this guy here, and now I'm going to change this guy to on, and by going to change that to on, I'm going to flip. So I'm going to click on this guy is going to become now 0, and the other one is going to become 1. You can see change it right away. So I'm just going to click key that. So now we just did that. Let me just move this one to the side for a moment, and you can see that if I go on and off, it changes, but there is a problem with it. And the problem that I have, you can see the knee is twisting inwards. And the reason for that is because if you remember when we created the knee twist, we made the twist of the IK handle be a negative 90. So let me click on the IK handle there. And you can see that actually this one is positive 90, twist 90 degrees. So we're gonna do an additional set driven key, to which the driven is going to be now the IK handle, and we're gonna click on the twist, which is the one that needs to be modified. So the knee lock, now when the knee lock is off, the twist should be 90 the way it is. So when I do that one, keep it right there, just the way it was originally. So key that. Now when the knee lock is 1, with a mouse button to change it, the twist should be 0, and I key that. So now if I go and use my knee lock from on and off, I don't see a difference. The knee stays in place, but when it's off, I can use my twist knee, right? And when the knee is on, I can use my controller in front. So I have two ways of manipulating the knee of my character. But we are not done yet. That's just simply manipulating this guy. But if the character, if I need a knee to be locked in place, I need more than just simply that. So we need to also control the position of this joint, and for doing that, we are going to create a couple of use the dimensional tool to measure the length of the knee, of the leg, and the position of the ankle, so that we can make those snap to this object actually, which are going to make it a little bit easier. Let's see how we do that. So I'm going to, first of all, let me just hide my geometry for a moment. I'm gonna go and hide my geometry right there, and I'm going to create a couple of measurement tools, one going from the hip to the knee, and the other one, I'm sorry, no, let me repeat that, from the hip to the locator on that is going to be the pole vector, the second pole vector, and the other one is going to be from the ankle to that same locator. So let me do those. In this case, because I already used hide everything and show locators, which are here. If you remember, when we did, because this leg is already stretchable, I can have an attribute to make it stretchable. I already have two locators created there, so those two locators are going to be used for this. If you did not have a setup for your leg, stretchy leg, you will create, once you use the tool, you will create those locators, and you will need to constrain those locators to the respective joints, to the hip joint and to the ankle joint, just to be clear. So in this case, I'm not going to need that. I'm going to show you in a minute what that is. I'm going to show joints right now. So I have my joints and my locators right there. So I'm going to create measurement tools, distance tool, and I'm going to start with the very first one. I'm going to press my V key, and that one is going to snap to that object right there. You see that it just grabbed the hip locator right there, and then I'm going to hold my V, snap to the second locator, which is the one that I have for my knee locator. I'm going to show distance the tools and dimensions here because they're not visible. There it is. That one is already, you're going to verify that you did it correctly, because sometimes if you don't do it, it doesn't snap correctly. So I'm going to do that one, and I'm going to keep that one for now. And I'm going to do the second one, which is I'm going to just going to call V again from the ankle joint. And that one, click on the ankle locator already to the knee locator, making sure that that one is already in there. So what it created was two dimensions, dimension 2. Now if you miss those objects by accident, you will see a new locators added here. So if you see new locators added here, you might want to undo or delete those locators and try again to make sure you are snapping correctly. Again, if you do not have stretchy leg set up, you will create new locators here. If you do not have a stretchy leg set up, you will create new locators here, and you simply need to attach the locator of the hip, make it constrained by the joint of the hip, and the locator of the ankle be constrained by the ankle locator. Okay, by the ankle joint, I'm sorry. So I have those. So if I go and let me show my curves here, and I click on this object and I move that, those values will change. I'm gonna make sure that it go back to 0 because that's my neutral position. So that one is changing everything, but it's not changing the knee position just yet. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to connect the value of this distance to the position of this joint, the translate index of that joint. So for that, we're going to use again the node editor, and I'm going to clear up all my space here. I'm just trying to move it to the side a little bit so I can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to now load here a few things. I'm going to load first of all the the distance tools. So I'm going to just grab both of them. I'm going to just click on the plus sign here so they get added. So, and actually I should rename those because it's not correct to have them just like that. So let me just rename this one. This one is going to be left knee lock distance. I'm going to call that one thigh. And I'm just gonna copy that first part, and then let me correct. I have a typo here. This one's going to be, I'm gonna call it cuff there, right? And I'm gonna just change the name on this one. All right, so I have a clear naming that makes it a little bit easier. And I'm going to now, I have those, and I'm going to connect that to the joints. So I'm going to load the, actually in this case it's going to be the ankle joint and the knee joint. Those are the ones that are going to drive the movement, not the hip joint. I'm going to add those two too. There we go, we have those right there. And additional to that, we need to add the knee controller, which has a knee lock in it. So I'm just add that one right there. So here we have those three objects, and we're gonna try to connect it together. So what is the first thing we're gonna do? We're gonna say that when the knee lock is off, like you put it on off, when the knee lock is off, we want the leg to maintain the size that it has right now, or the position. When the knee lock is on, we want it to use the distance value that it has here. So that means the knee is going to snap to that controller, so you can move the controller to wherever you want it to be snapping to. So let's do that, and we are going to use that not through a certain key, but we're going to just press tab on my keyboard. I'm going to put a new condition, and I'm going to call this condition left underscore knee lock 01 condition, because I need to do two conditions actually, one for the upper leg, another one for the lower leg. And let me do the connection on that one, and then we do the other one. So what is it going to be? We're gonna say when the knee lock attribute is, when the knee attribute value is equal to 0. So let me connect that one in the first term. So I'm gonna say when the knee lock, I'm gonna go and look at my knee lock knee lock right there. I'm gonna connect it to the condition here, what's gonna be the first term. When the knee lock is equal to 0, I'm gonna keep here equal to 0, right? So when the lock is 0, meaning off, I want the value, this value to be the position of the translating x of the knee joint. In this case, it's going to be 45,639. I'm going to copy that number. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to paste it right there. Again, so we're saying when the knee lock is off, and the second is equal to this one, to 0, the value is that. When it is not, we're going to take the value of this dimension, which is the this dimension is the lock distance of the thigh. So we're going to simply just connect the distance of that one. I gotta do the shape, not the transform node. I'm just move this one to the side and this one to the side. I'm doing the shape node. Okay, so here is my distance, and that one is going to connect to this one here, and that's going to be color if false in R. So here we go again. When the knee lock is equal to 0, the value should be 45, which is the value where the translated this joint is. We cannot use scale because we are already using scale for stretchiness. When they are not equal to 0, the value should be this distance. Now let me do the same trick for the other one, which is this one. So I'm going to create another condition. And this one is going to be this condition number 2. Knee lock condition number 2. I'm going to do the same trick. So again, when this one, so when the knee lock connects to first term here, 0, that color if true is going to be the translate of this value, which is 42.929. The translating x. Why translating it? I'm sorry, I'm just copy that. Copy. Why translating x? Because in x is the orientation and that object has along the leg. We'll see it and test it in a few seconds. So I have that one there. I'm gonna go back here. I'm gonna paste that one on true. And if it's not, if they're not equal, the value that is gonna come from the shape distance. There we go. I'm gonna connect that one to the color if false in R, so that one gets connected there. Okay, let's just test it. So I'm gonna just go and click on my controller here. I'm gonna say my knee twist is off. That means the leg should behave the way it behaved before. I can rotate it back and forth, no problem. Now if this one goes on, right, we should be working. Let me see why I didn't do it. just double check 1 second. Oh, I'm missing one little thing here, and which is connecting the condition out to the value of the join. That was missing one part of the process, so I have made my option here. Yes, I have it already, and I have my two knees here, but I have not connected them yet. So because of course we are trying to bring back this condition into the translate of this object. So we're going to do this one here and this one there. So we're going to connect from this one is from the knee lock condition 1, which is the one that is coming the thigh distance. We're going to connect the out color in R, and we're going to connect it to the translate in X of the knee. You see it moving already. And when we do the other one, out color in R, I'm going to connect it to the translate in X of the ankle, and you see it now working. So let me go back again. I'm going to just put this one off for a moment. When it is off, the knee twist works correctly, and the leg of course does what it needs to be doing. When the knee lock is on, the knee snaps to that controller, and you see how the little locator becomes the one that drives the leg. There are some, let me just show the geometry here. I need to correct one thing, and that is that the locator is inside of the knee, so the controller, I mean. So I'm going to just select the controller by vertex. Let me turn off everything else. I don't want to keep clicking on anything that I don't need. Let me do it one more time. I'm going to select by vertex that object. Oh, it's not letting me do it because it's wanting to select the geometry. So I'm going to hide the geometry for a moment. Right, let me just go and grab it by vertex one more time. Ooh, everything is coming. Alright, let me just isolate that one for a moment. Try to select this thing by vertex. Gee, nothing is working today. Let me see if I can go and do it manually on it. I want to just move it forward so it's outside of the knee. There it is, selecting it. There it is. Sometimes things just get in the way. Okay, so we got it there. I'm just gonna move it. I need to move the vertexes. I cannot move the thing by itself because it'll lose its pivot point if I move it. If I move it not by component, but just move it by object. So here it is. I'm just gonna get out of isolation. I wanna just show there it is. So now this guy, I can actually, I'm just gonna move it back a little bit so it's closer to the knee itself. There we go. Right, so now that object drives the knee to wherever I want to position that knee. So let me try to just to show a quick little example here. I'm gonna pause my video and then try to pose my character there for a moment. So here I have gone and just posed my character. So I turned on my knee lock, and my controller is right there just below the character. You can just pose it there, and it allows you, if your character needs to move, the knee is gonna want to stay there. Of course, it has limitations. If you push it too hard, it will break, but it'll stay for the most part, maintaining for the most part the position that you want. As I said, it has limitations because what it is doing, it's playing with translate on the joint. So you go too far, you're gonna break your rig. And it's gonna stretch it a bit too much too. So it's more for, not for exaggeration, but more for positioning your knee on the right location so that your character can be more controllable there. All right, so that's the end of it. Of course, you have to follow the same process for the other knee to get both knees working with the same trick.